aunt was a con artist, and she learned from the best, her father. Grandpa never made it big, but he lived for the game. Staying under the radar was probably what made sure he never did get caught. Not once. And he was so proud of that. Mom didn't take up the family business. She got religion instead and married a tax accountant. It's so ironic that it sounds like a joke, but it's true. Dad was the best for helping out with math homework. Mom's more colorful relations were kept at a figurative arm's length through my childhood. Tests they'd corrupt me into following a more interesting path. Aunt Cassie was the only one who could wiggle her way into my life. She was a fully licensed psychologist, which made her a smidge more respectable. But Aunt Cassie used her ability to read a person in a whole different way. One probably not intended by the university who issued her degree. See, Aunt Cassie was a bona fide psychic. She had a shop and everything. Crystals, herbs, candles, anything you needed to fill the mystic void in your life could be bought for a healthy markup at her little store. There was even a private room in the back that was used for readings and seances. Because both my folks worked, I would often get dropped off at the shop where I would help Aunt Cassie out with those little shows. Anything from messing with the lights to knocking on walls. Playing with a thermostat was my idea, and it was an effective one. Customers came to get chills down their spine, didn't they? So why not provide? Cassie helped me become the skeptic I am today, showed me all the behind-the-scenes sleight-of-hand stuff. We'd watch daytime talk shows with magicians and mediums, and Cassie would explain every step, from a basic rundown of cold readings to how to spot an audience plant. See, after one particularly convincing episode, I asked the natural question, couldn't some of it be real? My aunt's reply was firm. The dead don't talk, kiddo. Anyone who claims otherwise is blowing smoke out of their ass. It was her conviction more than anything that made me believe her. There was only one client I ever saw my aunt refuse. He was old, bald, and stooped. He took his hat off when he came inside and twisted it in his hands as he talked. Aunt Cassie tensed up immediately when she saw him. The man claimed to have worked in the prison systems, death row. He'd been responsible for carrying out the final punishments of the worst convicted criminals on the planet. In his old age, this tormented him, ate at his soul. He wanted Cassie to contact those souls of the ones he'd killed so he could apologize and beg forgiveness before he joined them. My aunt threw the most epic fit. I'd honestly never seen her so mad. She hollered and threw things, shouting for him to shut up and get out. I hid under the counter with my hands over my ears until he had left. Later, I thought her reaction was one of fear because of the man's job. An executioner has to be a con artist's worst fear, right? Eventually, I got found out. I wanted to put on a magic show for my folks, and stupidly, I thought to do a medium bit where I pretended to talk to Grandpa for Mom since she missed him so much. Huge mistake. Mom freaked the fuck out and banned me from ever seeing her sister ever again. I'd left some textbooks at the shop, though, so I got to run in and grab them while Mom fumed in the car outside. Aunt Cassie didn't even have to ask what was wrong. She could read my face. After all, I gave her a hug and a teary, snot-filled goodbye. She did tell me one final secret, though. Kiddo, there's a curse in this family that gets passed like a torch. I hope to whatever gods might be out there that I don't pass it on to you when I go. We didn't get to talk again for more than 9 years. That's when Facebook entered the popular public sphere, and no parental ban could keep me from trying to reconnect. It was awkward. She had a tough go of life, diagnosed with a schizoid disorder that took her business from her. To pay bills, she went legitimate, and with her business went all her zest and playful passion for life. One day I got home to a message waiting in my inbox that made my stomach drop to the floor. I love you, kiddo. Remember what I told you. I dialed her number, already crying, no answer. Didn't stop me from dialing again and again and again and again. I was too much of a mess to tell my mom. The police did that for me the next day. Car accident, drunk driver. The funeral was a blur. Relatives I'd never seen in the flesh packed the church. I sat between my parents in the front row and racked my brain trying to figure out what it was my aunt wanted me to remember. We followed the hearse to the cemetery in dead silence. The priest did that last little speeches, and then I was left, alone by her headstone. Still straining to remember, snatches of my parents' conversation floated in and out of my attention span. If only Cassie hadn't been so cryptic. Expecting such a small turnout. It's a shame. Small turnout. That bothered me. The service had practically been stuffed to the rafters. I turned around to say something and finally understood. Behind my parents, there was a whole host of people, all standing and staring dead ahead. My parents weren't paying them the slightest attention. The priest muttered some soothing condolences and excused himself, walking right through the thick of the crowd without disturbing a single soul. At the head of the croup, looking just like the day I'd seen her last, was Cassie. All the rest in peace sentiment in the world wouldn't have done her any good. Her mouth was wide open. And just like that, I knew. I knew what the family curses. I know why the dead don't talk. They're too busy screaming. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was why you can't talk to the dead. Now, of course, we've all some of us have heard that saying at one point or another, and I'm not going to disagree with it. I don't think you can really talk to the dead. At least I can't. If other people can, good for you. But as far as I've seen, I don't think I can do it, and I haven't seen anything of the sort happen recently. But this creepypasta is one of those creepypastas basically originating from Reddit's no sleep category, subreddit category, whatever you want to call it. I don't really browse that subreddit too often. I see it a few times, and actually oftentimes I go on there, I come across some gems, but again, I don't really peruse the area. But there are some really good creepypastas that are formed from them, usually short, just because of the nature of a Reddit post happening near instantaneously, if you say. Of course, from there also came the My Dead Girlfriend Keeps Messaging Me on Facebook creepypasta, really good as well. But this one was definitely short, it was definitely sweet, and is definitely full of story. Usually with these creepypastas, it almost feels like story becomes an afterthought, where they just use it as some sort of dressing around these scares that they craft. And here, I guess you could say there wasn't a giant scare. If you get right to the end with obviously, this reveal, which again leaves you questioning what exactly, was it? Was it the whole curse running in the family? Of course it was. But what was the curse and what was it all about? Of course, that's left up to your interpretation. I mean, for example, I really don't know. I'm just sitting at the end wondering, what the whole screaming is all about. But slowly but surely, you start putting a little bit of the pieces together, and I actually do enjoy that, because I do prefer a story where it doesn't actually give you all the answers. I do like interpreting things on my own. I feel like you actually get a lot of amazing endings or amazing thoughts coming out of that from multiple different people when you give that, instead of expressly spelling out just exactly what the hell even happened. So I do quite enjoy that. I absolutely do like it. As far as the story went, again, it was short and sweet, and it was, again, full of little details that basically built this little world. And honestly, reading through it, I was kind of given this eerie feeling throughout. It wasn't, full on really, really scary, and I guess it's sort of different. That's a beautiful thing about creepypastas. They come in sort of all these flavors. You have sort of the one creepy side where it's the Ben Majora's Mask ARG, where you sit through and you're basically reading through these journal entries, slowly getting thrown into this giant pit of madness and intrigue. And then you have this story where you basically have just a little tiny Twilight Zone-esque story tossed at you, and you're just left to interpret it. And overall, it does end up being a little bit creepy when you really think about, what you truly read in the end. Once you truly start putting those puzzle pieces together, it, starts to hit you. And, if it was 2 a.m, and right now it's pretty late, then it might make you think before you go to sleep, right? It might make you not sleep or no sleep, as this was posted on that subreddit. But ultimately, this is an interesting creepypasta, why you can't talk to the dead. Again, I can't talk to the dead, and I'm not sure. I'm sure maybe the aunt can. I don't know. But as far as the son said, she was a con artist. But if things turned out to be real, then, obviously it wasn't a con. It was just a giant curse that runs through the family, and it was effectively pulled off and hidden so much that no one believed it right until the very end, and that's what it was really about. I thought when you got to the end with the Facebook message, I was wondering, maybe it's going to end with, him coming home from the funeral and reading another message on Facebook or something like that, and it didn't happen that way. It really didn't. It decided to go a totally different direction and inject these supernatural tones into the story, and again, I do have to say, I really did enjoy that entire reveal at the end, too. Of course, you have to put it together in your own head, but I feel like everyone can come with a different interpretation. I would really like to read what many other interpretations would be. So again, as always, I do like to ask you what you thought about this creepypasta, and what would you rate it in the comments section below, and tell me what you thought about that ending. I'd really like to see everyone's different sort of thoughts on it. And I do enjoy this. I think it was definitely a good creepypasta. It was nice, short, sweet. It was different from what I usually read, which is a nice change of pace. This has been another episode of Creepypastas, part of Haunted Gaming, where, we cover these spooks on the internet. If you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike it if you dislike it. This is me, Mudahar, and I am out.